This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome everybody to
There we
the
go.
Turning Urban Herding Challenges into Triumphs Clubhouse chat. I'm going to turn it over to Debbie.
Okay, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, because I know in Zoom it mutes everybody when it starts recording. So this is a little bit different than the original urban herding Clubhouse chat that we had a couple of years ago. I know that has kind of been my Bible over the last couple of years in training, and I've watched it I don't know how many times, and I've learned a lot. And so this urban herding challenges into triumphs, I welcome anybody to offer your thoughts, opinions, and everything on how you're training. But this is kind of how things have gone for me, the things that I have done to make training urban herding a possibility in my tiny house, in my cold climate, and in my tiny backyard. And I just want to share some of the stuff that I have learned, and I'm still learning. So why won't that change? Let me see. Hold on a second here. I gotta switch. There. So I've got a few slides on indoor training ideas and equipment, outdoor training ideas and equipment. The challenges to Triumph is a work in progress, level by level as we lived it, and then some final thoughts, discussion, and questions. But if anybody wants to add anything along the way, please feel free. Um, so this is first one here is indoor training equipment. I live in Winnipeg, and it is darn cold here in the winter for a very long time. Winter can start in October and go all the way. This year it went all the way until like the end of April. So we really had no opportunities to train outside. I don't really have any indoor training space that I don't have to pay for. So we've kind of tried to make things happen in our house. My house is 120 years old, so my hallways are very narrow. I'm lucky, my balls are on the smaller side, but to get around that, uh, to practice in the hallways, this is how I started practicing drive actually. So Adam would sit here and I would stand here and force him to drive. Eventually, once he kind of got the concept to pushing it that way, then we started removing this or making the block smaller. So that was kind of what we did to start working on drive. So we had something to do in the winter. And then in the living room to work on our bank command and in conjunction with drive, I set up these training gates that I have. Now, Adam's not a really violent pusher. I mean, I guess if your dog's a violent pusher, you'd need something a little more stable than this. But we would kind of work it to get into each of the pens. So we were practicing one pen and the other, and we would start a little bit further back in the kitchen. This is my living room. So back into the kitchen where he would drive it in. And then it's not a long distance, but it was an educational distance to kind of get him used to going from one pen into the other. So that's kind of what we did inside, because and especially this year too, we've had really terrible spring and summer. I mean, it's been raining like the last few days, and when it's not raining, it's stinking hot. So it's been rough. So we've been kind of doing this stuff inside. So I mean, really, I mean, adapt with what you've got is what I have to say, because that's kind of what we did, and that really gave us a good grounding. I mean, it didn't translate terribly well out onto the field, but it was a start, and it made it a little easier once we did get outside, once it was nicer. For our outdoor training equipment, we just did some stuff with some low garden fencing. This is only about 2 feet tall, this garden fencing, and I just removed it from around my plants and just made myself a channel which we could practice drive once we got outside. I followed, like I said, the original urban herding chat is my Bible, so I really did follow all of the tricks and tips and ways to start training. So if I can't see who's on here, but if you haven't done urban herding before, I highly advise going in there and following those exercises because they're gold. They were really gold. And when I forget things, I do go back and refer to it. But this picture in the middle here, that kind of has a channel that goes around the back. So that was helping us to really work the bank to get into that pen. And then I would slowly expand that out and work to get it into the pen. I don't have a big yard again, so we're kind of limited in what we could do. And the place that I actually do train with my friend Brenda, she's almost an hour out of town, so it's not like I just want to run over there every time I want to play. So it's nice to have something in the yard. When we first started, we would actually use chairs as our fences just to have something to kind of work around. And the chairs to me were more stable until Adam got the idea of actually being able to push around the fence instead of pushing into it. So that was really, really helpful. And then this is more outdoor setups. This is more of what we're doing this year. We're working on expert level. So I wanted to have a couple of pens at the back and then I have a pen up at the front. And I just use some of my trellises and this is the size of the yard. That's only about 3 or 4 feet in between there. And that's only about 5 feet. So that's the yard. So it's helping to give us the idea of push into the various pens and just using different equipment. Um, And then at one point, I think Lisa was asking me what I was using for my pens because you could see through them so nicely. And I'm really just using it's like a bird fencing or bird netting or like garden netting. And I just bought it on Amazon and you can buy it in a roll and it's really, really light, but it's really durable. Like it really holds up because we have these sitting outside all summer. We put them away in the winter, but we have them outside all summer and they're lying on the ground and they hold up just fine. So we reused old jumps because I don't know the price of PVC in the States, but it's not cheap up in Canada. So we didn't want to have to go out and buy all the fencing, all the PVC that we needed for them. So we recycled a bunch of old jumps and weave poles, and we just used zip ties to zip tie the fence. Last year we were using sandbags because there was agility equipment out at her place, but those are gone now. So she had these heavy duty roofing blocks, so we're using those on the to hold them up. And we've got these I believe these were electric fence posts. Obviously no longer electrified, but they work well to actually hold the legs down. Last year we had very tall fencing all around the field, but she needs that to protect her garden from the deer this year. So we've had to pivot, and now we've got these. They're about 12 by 12 beams surrounding the area of the field, and it keeps the balls in. So that seems to be working. So again, like we're just kind of rolling with the punches and adapting as we go, and just trying to make it work. So
You-
so these were sorry.
Oh, I was
Melanie?
just wanted to maybe pause for a second and see if anybody wanted to chime in anything about equipment from their experience or thoughts or
Sure.
questions they had. Nobody? Okay, moving on, Debbie.
All right. So this challenges to triumph is kind of the key words that we've kind of adopted. We've kind of needed to keep adding words, change words as we've gone, just to kind of make things a little bit more distinct for Adam. So drive, obviously, one of the more important words. We're still trying to get more distance out of each pen. We've got bank to the left, and we've got bop it to bank to the right. Because I learned that I taught him beautifully. He was banking left. It was wonderful. And then when I tried to get him to bank to the right side for like the other setup, it was no, he kept banking it left. So then I retaught it and bank to the right. And then when I tried to do bank to the left again, it was again broken. So that's when we've introduced bop it now. So we've got bank for us to the left and bop it to the right. So if your dog is selective in directions, try to teach two different words right out of the gate because it'll save you some time of going back and forth. In the pen was a big one that really has helped in pretty much every level to get him to go into the pen to get the ball out or to finalize pushing the ball into the pen. I think Monica, you had said that when you get the ball into the pen, your dog was wanting to bring it out, and then you retrained, and it was working, and then it wasn't working. Kind of the same as my bop it and bank. Um, I find for me a really strong come command once the ball is in the pen gets him to leave it. I mean, I don't know if that would works, but he's got a good come command, and he knows that there's snacks waiting for him in the goal, so he comes a running. Corner was another big one for us, learning that corner and following the instructions in the original urban herding of putting down a mat in the far corner and getting the dog to go to the mat and then working with drive in there. Stop, very important because Adam just likes to just keep pushing whatever he's doing, even if he's got the wrong ball. So if I can get him to stop, then it's good. Um, I think Monica, you asked what I used to get him across the field. We've done from far pen to far pen, but I run the other side and over. But that's one command that we've always had because we do sidestepping and he moves over, so he kind of knows what that means. And then the last one, this is a new one we're kind of playing with because we have such a short drive. Um, I started using come, but then I was concerned I was going to break it because I wasn't getting Adam to come all the way back to me. And so he was kind of getting confused when I was trying to get him to come around to the other side of the ball to drive again because he'll drive it for a bit and then decide, oh, I want to push. And I had no way of getting him around to the back side of the ball again. So we're trying to work on teaching him set so that he'll come back around to the correct side of the ball to continue driving. Because with the longer distances in the expert level, we need to have a little more longevity in our set. And then I've got these slides here with each level, and I kind of have notes on what I found to be the most important tools to have in our toolkit for each level. So for the novice level, using training methods in the original urban herding to not push the ball into the fences was imperative. Our stabilizers are not strong. I mean, they're strong, but they're not strong to withstand the ball bouncing against it too much. So following those instructions on how to teach going around the fence was great from the original one. A good stop command because when we wanted to get the ball between the fences, if he was heading the wrong way, getting him to stop and reline up was crucial. The corner command was great here. Like I was really happy that we had trained that early on to get Adam into the pen in the proper position so that he would drive the ball out. The distance to drive wasn't far, so having a solid drive command there wasn't super important. But just being able to have him drive it for like a few feet was enough. Um, for us, once the ball was in the pen, to bring the dog back. Yeah, and then once the ball was in the pen, oh, that's not imperative here. No, sorry. Well, that's the wrong level. This was pushing out of the pen, not into the pen. But yeah, having the dog have a good corner command and a half decent drive command was imperative for our novice level success. In the intermediate level, drive became a little bit more essential because now we were driving into the pen from the goal, so there was a little bit more of a distance. And this was where the bank went badly because we did the two that were going to the left to get him to push into the pen, and then we needed to do one to get it into the right side pen, and we had to retrain. And it should have dawned on me then that I should have taught him a different word. But of course, thinking that it would eventually translate both ways, it didn't. but we got that level done. And but yeah, then we had broken the bank to the other side. The in the pen really helped to reinforce to get it actually into the pen. So the bank would kind of get that turn, and then the in the pen really helped to push it into the pen. Because I found that he wasn't always pushing it deep enough into the pen. He would just kind of push it in and then try to run away, or then he would try to push it out of the pen. So trying to get it further into the pen within the pen seemed to really help him understand what the goal was and what he needed to do.
Hey, Debbie, can I ask you a question right here? I'm going to jump in.
Yes.
So did I understand correctly that you, when you're going to send, so in level 1, when you're going to send for a pen retrieve, are you using in the pen as your retrieval? Are you saying go in the pen and then drive and then push?
When for the first level,
Yeah, or anytime you're doing a pen retrieval.
if we're doing a pen retrieval, I will get him. I will usually say in the pen. In the novice
Or
level,
corner.
yeah. In the novice level, I wasn't using in the pen. In the novice level, I was using corner, so I would send
Corner.
him out into the
Okay, so it was
corner,
go
and
corner.
and then it was a drive to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
once it was kind of out, it was the natural progression for him to just kind of want to push it into the goal
Okay, so go
for
corner.
that yeah, for that first level. And then for the second level, that's when we started using in the pen, because we would get him it it got him to understand he either had to physically go into the pen or he had to push the ball into the pen, like so deeper into the pen, because we're pushing from the goal in level 2. And so I would get him to drive it out. And then if he was going to the right, well, it was bank both ways, but if he was going to the right, and if I'd been smart, it would have been bop it. And so then it gets that turn, but then he wasn't always pushing it in far enough. So I would tell him to push, but then there was always the fear he was going to push it out. But I
Yep.
incorporated in the pen with it, and that kind of helped to really cement getting the
Okay.
ball in there.
All right.
And then it was a very hard come to get him out. Otherwise, there was the tendency to want to, oh, well, I need to push this out of here. So he'd then start trying to drive it back out and bring it out. But the really strong come with a lot of excitement
Yeah.
really seemed to help to get it out,
So
get
when you're
him
doing your
out
pen,
without.
when you're doing your pen retrievals now, you're using corner still to get him into the front corner in order to then retrieve the ball, right?
Ab- Absolutely, yeah,
Okay.
because it
Okay.
gets him.
That's what I was needing
Yeah,
to clarify. Super.
yeah, because that gets him into the right position. So then I mean, he still bops the sides of the pen a bit, but at least he's in a better position to get that drive in, and drive the ball out of the pen before he starts pushing it back towards the goal.
Cool.
But
Thanks.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely corner. Corner
Okay.
is
Great.
our one of our best friends. Yeah.
For the retrieval.
So yeah,
Perfect.
yeah. So when we went to the advanced level, we never actually did any of the across the top. It was that every time Adam would drive the ball out, there was always a natural push to bring it would always curve it down. So we kind of avoided doing the straight across the top. Um, so we never really had to fight to get that ball straight across the top. There was always a curve down to go into either the pen on the same side as the pen it came out of, or to the other side. Um, so in the pen was vital to get him out to the farther pens, because that's a real push to get him out that far. And especially now in the expert level, that's really far for a short-legged dog. So in the pen really helps him to discern what he's doing. Because I find too that I tell him to go out and he sees the ball through the netting and he's like, but I can't get to it. So he's kind of wandering around the front side of the pen, and it confuses him. So telling him and repeatedly in the pen, then he's like, I have to go around and go into the pen. So that's really been helpful to get him out into those far pens. To move the ball across the field to the closer pen, yeah, I will run. I will kind of gauge his speed as he's going across, as he's moving the ball out of the far pen and to bring it into the front one. And if it has to go across the field, I will kind of try to run across the handler field just slightly ahead of him so that he's kind of seeing me and he will kind of push it over. And that's when I use my over cue. And it's not always 100% successful. It sometimes comes in, but that's where we have to kind of play with the drive and the over and kind of do some repetition and push it out. But we did pretty well in actually moving it across the field, which I was quite impressed with him. But yeah, over is just our generic term to kind of move things over or to move over. Um, but yeah, like I said, we were using come to do that reset to drive, and it was breaking his come because then he didn't want to come when I called him anymore because he didn't know what was going on. And then this was the level 2 where we started working on like bop it and bank so that we know which way the ball needs to go. And then now this is where we are, is expert level. And unfortunately, it's been really, really slow going because of the crappy weather we're having here. So we've only had a few practices. But we're working on these two. I put them in kind of mixed order. So this is option 3 and this is option 4. I'm not saying that these are going to be easier than these ones, but they're kind of similar. So that's where we're kind of playing with these ones. Right now, we're kind of working with just 2 balls, and we're keeping we started way back here with the balls to try to get working the bank and the bop it, and we're slowly working our way backwards. Um, it's we actually, the last time we did this, we had a great breakthrough. He did a beautiful drive out, so hopefully, by the time we get back at this, we'll still have a good drive, and maybe we won't need to teach the set, but we're still working on teaching the set. Because it's still quite a distance, and especially with me having to be back here, because right now I'm training up at the top with him, just so that he's not going, why are you way back there? And all the commands that I had learned, and they're all coming into play here. We're using corner, we're using bank, bop it, in the pen, over everything. Everything that he knows we are using in this level, because it's a little bit more complex. And I haven't even endeavored to try option 1 and 2 yet, where we're pushing the ball from the front pen to the back ones. So it'll be interesting to see how those go when we get there. Um, so that is all about my words and what I was using and when I was using it. And where are we here? So the moral of my urban herding story is, I found there's no right or wrong way to train it. I, I I do say that, what I learned from the original chat was priceless. I don't think I would have gotten anywhere without it. The diagrams, the explanations, everything in there made this possible and made it possible to achieve. Create your own plan. Refer to that chat. Reuse items you have to play around in your house and in your yard, even if it's like small things that you can just work around. But I mean, I find this ridiculously hard, but incredibly rewarding when it's successful. My training partner Brenda, I don't think she made it to the call, but she said no, too much for me. But I love it. I like the challenge, and Adam likes the challenge too, which makes it fun as well. So that's kind of all I have. That's kind of our journey, what we learned, what we took from the original chat, and how we kind of manipulated it to suit our purposes for our climate, weather, all of that stuff. And so if anybody has any thoughts, ideas, suggestions, things that you've done, speak now.
Thanks, Debbie. Do you want to switch it over to gallery view or whatever it's called in GoToMeeting? I can't. I don't seem to be able to do that. I think that's part of your share.
Okay, I will, as soon as I can figure out how to get my mouse down here.
I think if you stop your share, it should bring all the cameras up. And while you're doing that, Karen, you put a question in the chat about who created the original Urban Herding chat. Thank you, Debbie. That's great. And again, I apologize that my camera's not working, and I don't know if you want to try to turn yours on, Debbie, now since you were done sharing, but I believe the diagrams were made by Chris and Debbie. Yes, it was really good. Debbie, who is no longer on the board, she was leading the chat, or was it Brenda? Margaret, can you chime in and help me, or Lisa?
It would be, if it was Debbie, it was Debbie Decker, but I don't honestly remember.
Maybe it was Brenda.
Or Brenda.
I'm not sure which of those two is sort of leading the chat. But I think Lisa Triggs took a lot of the pictures, and then I think Chris created the diagrams. That's my guess. Does that sound right, Sandy, Margaret, Lisa?
Sounds close.
I was trying to find it on YouTube so I could for sure give you an answer.
Well, it might be fun for people to just kind of share what level they're currently at with urban herding and their journey. So that might be kind of a fun place to start and get the conversation going. So I'll go first. I've got 2 legs of novice, and I'm pretty excited about that. This idea of breaking things is a common theme. I'll just chime in with that. How about anybody else? Oh, Debbie, there you are.
I am.
But, someone else chime in. Sandy, I know you have.
I've had fairly good luck with urban herding. I have Chase, who is actually 1 Q away from his 2nd outstanding expert title.
Wow.
And my young dog, Queso, just earned his intermediate urban herding title.
That's awesome, Sandy.
Just go ahead. 2 legs in intermediate urban herding at the Indy trial a couple of weeks ago.
Woo!
Nice.
Live, no less. That's got to be a whole nother level.
No pressure.
Yeah, I've got 2 outstanding experts, and I'm working on my 3rd expert. So,
hey, Tammy. Lisa, can you talk?
We have our advanced and have been thinking about doing expert, but my brain is making me think too much about how to do it and how to do it right without actually doing it. So this is perfect.
something I find helpful is automatic treat feeders. If you can put them in the goal and have the dog drive to that, it kind of removes you from the situation and they learn the pattern.
You mean in the pen, right, Tammy?
Correct, in the pen. I put it right up at the front of the pen where I want them to drive to all the way in. And when they get there, I click it. That's what I'm working on with Rumor right now to get her expert, to get her to go that 50 feet, that extra distance that she's not been pushing before. So.
And if you don't have an automatic feeder, I just walk out to the dog. I just say, yes, that was great. Good dog. And I walk out there and I feed him a treat out there. Because placement of reinforcement is very powerful, especially when you do a lot of repetitions.
Agree.
So, yeah.
I found that very useful. And I also use a mouth click instead of a physical clicker. Mm-hmm. And I'll click when they get the ball, headed towards the back of the thing, and they both just come running for their treats after that.
Yeah.
So I watched that original urban herding thing a couple of times, and it is kind of was kind of my Bible for doing things. And I wish I would have documented the things I did when I was first training, because it's hard for me to now go back and remember. But I think I did a lot of training them to tip the ball into the pen before I taught them drive, so that they had that goal of getting it into the pen, and they love getting it into the pen, both of my dogs. So then backing that up and then having them go driving it a little further each time until I got it into the pen. And I remember having a gate at a diagonal, so that the ball had to go in a diagonal to get it to bank correctly.
I think we did the same thing. We kind of used one of the other gates to kind of help guide the ball into the pen.
So I'm working on urban herding with Ashton now. So I have an outstanding expert title with Riley, and I've trained another herding dog breed. And so this is an English Springer Spaniel. And I was like, I wonder if a herding dog does make it easier or not. So far, we have had pretty much the same challenges, although I've only had this dog for 2 years, so we don't have the training history behind us that Riley and I did. But what I'm trying to do with him right now, we only have our novice title, so we're working towards intermediate. But one of the things I'm trying to do is show him pictures of what other things are going to look like sooner. So in other words, the other day I was like, I don't want to get 8 balls out to practice snooker or whatever. I'm just going to get 4 out and put them in the line like they're going to be for expert urban herding, and show him what that looks like and start working on helping him put balls in different places, and lots of help right there close to him, things like that. And then we put the 4 balls in the pen. Do you feel comfortable going in the pen with the 4 balls there? Not expecting the full picture, but just showing him. Also going past a ball in a pen to the far pen. And I do a lot of back chaining with that. So I start up so close to the far pen that he can't get it wrong. And then I start backing up until he is able to pass the pen with the ball in it to go to the far one. And I also use my position in the handler box to cue him. So when I want him to go to the near pen, I'm much closer to that side of the handler box. And when I want him to go to the far pen, I'm starting more in the middle. So all those things that we can do to cue our dogs of what the picture is that we're asking them to do. I also say, when I want him to go to the pen to retrieve a ball, I say pen. I have associated it with a directional cue when I train it. When I want him to go to the far pen, I say go pen. But just whatever, it's whatever you're going to be able to remember to say and do, right?
Yeah, good one, Kyla.
You'd say spaghetti. What if that made sense to you? But and I also, there's been a point with all my dogs for training drive when if it gets too far away from you, they just want to go to that other side. And so that's a process that just takes a while. But if you can if the ball goes wonky, if you can toss a treat to them that's going to put them in the best position to make a drive after they eat the treat, that's what I try to do. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
So like you've done a stop cue, and then you're throwing your stop for stopping cookie,
Well,
for drive.
Actually, it's more like, my yard is weeds and dirt and divots, and the ball does not roll straight, right? So let's say he does a good drive, he taps the ball and gets it moving, but it takes a wonky turn, and I want him to be pushing it to the left. It takes a wonky turn to the right. I'm going to throw a treat over near where the ball ended up, because of how it rolled after he pushed it. I'm going to throw a treat over so that he's on the correct side, that when I say drive again, he's going to be in the position I want him to be in.
Yeah.
So that we can keep going, even though it just took a wonky turn.
So Kyla, you mentioned, starting to train different elements early. And I'd love to hear other people's thoughts about that after having, gone through different levels. Like, oh, okay, with my next dog, I'm going to kind of do all of the things a little bit rather than, just focusing on, say, the skills for novice. Because my feeling, as I've done novice and I'm working intermediate, is that novice can kind of be just patterned, like, go get the balls and bring them to me wherever they are. And so if you have not got your cues really under stimulus control, and then you're starting to try to have them put it in the pen, not bring it out of the pen, and they're like, there's a ball in the pen. What do we do with balls in the pen? We bring them out, right? And so, yeah, anybody else in terms of things getting broken and then having to repair them? Anybody have any thoughts on how they're kind of changing the order or adding in things early, like Kyla was talking about?
Like Sandy or Tammy, did you teach your new dogs to drive earlier than you did your other dogs?
Absolutely. I took my puppy Queso and had him pushing a small ball down the hallway in the middle of winter, much like what Debbie was describing.
Was
he already the drive command? And then when spring came, we went, we took it outside, or we took it to class when he was old enough to go into a Treibball class. But drive was a separate thing to push away from me than, pinning the ball. And I used the word bank again, like Debbie, and back chained that.
Was he already, were you teaching drive at the same time you were teaching initial stages of push?
He learned push, but within a few months, I added drive. Yeah, I wanted to get, make sure that he understood the difference between those two words. But I don't, bank is the only word I use for, putting it in a pen. And I use a lot of body language to indicate which pen. And people have told me, especially in regards to agility, that I need directional cues, but they don't know how directionally challenged I am. So I rely more on, actually, I think it was you, Kyla, that talked about moving across the front of the handler box. I do that when I want them to take it from one far pen to the other far pen. I kind of move with them across the field. And then I'm going to use a mix of, if they're bringing a ball in and then need to put it in the near pin, I'll have them push it a short ways and then do call off, leave it or whatever, and then reposition them, I'll say go around, to get them on the different side of the ball and tell them to drive again, or if they're close to a pin, bank it. Always means put it in the nearest pin, basically.
I think for us, with Adam, he's used to having a different cue for each side.
Yeah.
Like when he spins on one side and when he spins on the other, we've got spin and we've got twist. And so I think he needs that differentiation, and that's where I failed with just using bank, because I dance in that handler box, and I'm doing like, a all of the signals to get him to go the right way. And he's like, no, no, bank is that way. No, we're not going to do that way. We're going to do that way. I don't care if the pen is right there beside me. I'm going that way. So that's the difference. But that's my dog. So
Yeah. I try to, like,
and
you know, if I want him to go to the right, I'll use my left arm and say, and turn towards that right pin, whether it be the far one or the near one. I'll say, like, go bank, or, you know, if they need to go further out. Or sometimes I'll have them drive until it's a little bit past the near pins and then say bank it, and gesture which direction they need to be going. But I try to set them up so that they're, you know, they start to push at the angle that they need to go towards the correct pin. I'll have to put in a promotion here for directional cues on the skills training, because that really comes into the use with urban herding, being able to literally move them back and forth.
How about you, Tammy? Did you teach your newest dog drive earlier than your other ones?
I don't know that it was earlier. We did work on it during the winter down the hallway like everyone else does. So we've got a hallway, and like I said, I've got an automatic treat feeder at the end, or I would toss treats down there, and everybody else was in the room looking out at her. So both of my boys were trained about the same time and kind of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And they really went through it quick, and Rumor is going through it a lot more slow, and I think it's because of me and other things going on. So, but
Yeah.
we are working through it and learning each time. And like I said, she's just a little different than the boys. So,
Mm-hmm. One thing to suggest also, even though it's a pain, but I realized, since I'm on the education committee, I thought, well, I'm training this non-herding breed and urban herding thing, and once he learns it, I won't be able to video the training process, so I better take some more video. And wouldn't you know, I worked with Riley today also, and I couldn't figure out why she wasn't taking this cue to get her around the ball to the other direction to push it the way I wanted. And my video revealed that I was giving a verbal cue for one direction and a signal for the opposite direction. So, so there you go. Video is your friend. You don't have to show it to anybody else. You don't have to admit that you've made a mistake, except to your dog. And also coming up with ideas of what makes sense to Ashton, because he's not as subtle as Riley. Like, I can just turn my shoulder and say, walk up to her, and she's like, yeah, I got it. And he's like, I have no clue what you're talking about. So I have to come up with some different cues for him that make sense to him, and being able to see how I'm giving those cues is probably going to help me come up with something that's clearer to him. So if you can video yourself, it's great. And then if you have questions, you can also post them and get help.
Well, the point you make is a good one, that every dog really is different. And, you know, some dogs just like, Karen, which dog of yours kind of taught themselves urban herding? Like, literally, you know, is it Jeep? Or Jeep did urban herding before he did any regular games?
Yeah, Jeep is really good at it. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to compete this last time because she was in season. But
what kind of dog?
Jeepy.
Oh.
So making enough noise.
Ah, there she is. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Now, is that a herding breed, Karen?
They're a jack of all trades. Mainly a family companion dog. They worked on barges in Holland. So they're known as the Dutch barge dog, but they also used them a lot throughout Europe. just again as a jack of all trades. So they do have a little bit of herding, maybe depending on what line. But yeah, she loves her ball.
Well, I had another question if no one else is ready to jump in with anything. And that is, I'd love to hear some examples from Debbie or others about teaching this idea of the set position. So Debbie, you came in after and you're like, okay, I need this set position. So walk us through how you started to teach that.
Well, I'm out on the field with Adam right now, so we're like at net level, and we're just trying to get the drive going. And I find that I don't know if his attention wavers or he just decides that he'd rather push than drive. But quite often, we get driving, and then all of a sudden he somehow manages to get around the side of the ball and he's starting to push. And so I'm trying to, instead of getting him to come, I'm going up with him and getting him to come around to the correct side of the ball with me. I mean, it would be a similar thing, I think, to throwing a treat in that spot. But if I throw a treat for Adam, it'll take him 5 minutes to find it, because he's not too quick on finding treats. So that's kind of a big would be. I mean, it's a great idea. It's just not one for Adam. So that's why I'm thinking, like if I can get him to come around to the ball to the correct position, just like you would line up on the outside of the ball, because I can, they're at the wrong ball in balls in order. No, over, line up, and you get them to line up. Or if they're pushing and they're going the wrong way off to the side, get them to stop and line up. So this is kind of the opposite to line up where it's set. And so we've just kind of started working that just to try to get another word so that if things go sideways on the drive, we've got some kind of way to get him to get back into position without having to do, like all the signals and use every cue that I can think of under the sun to get him to do it the right way. So that's kind of what we're working on. And then, like I said, I mean, I'm up there with him. So if he's going sideways, I kind of try to get in there and go, come on, set. And then I get him in beside me on the right side of the ball. And then we start driving again. So it's still in its infancy. So I'm not sure if it's totally working yet, but.
So is the definition of set then a position that is in line with you?
It's
you, him, the ball.
Yeah,
right?
right now it's got me in the picture, but eventually I want to be out of the picture just because I need him to kind of understand where the set position is, that it's on the opposite side of the ball, because I don't really want to be in the picture eventually. I want to be out of the picture because he might be way out on the field. He might be at 40 feet and I need him to get around to the other side of the ball. It's easy to get him to go line up on the other side of the ball because he gets that.
That's the part I don't understand, though. You said you need to get him to the other side of the ball, but
well, we need him to get him to the side of the ball where he can drive,
right?
Not push. So if he's on the other side of the ball, it's easy enough to get him to line up and then push it to me. But to get if he's driving and then he's kind of all of a sudden kind of turning and now he's starting to push, it's like, no, stop. And then that's where I want this set command to come in so that he'll come to the side of the ball where he can then drive again.
But how does he know which side of the ball to get on? It's based on its relative position to you, even if you're 50 feet away, right?
Yes, and I haven't tried being further away.
No, I'm not saying you should.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm just trying to get him to understand that it's kind of almost like an in conjunction with, so set and then drive, so that I can get him into the position to set and then drive. I don't know if it's going to actually work. I mean, because
Well,
I'm out there with him and it seems to be working. Like he gets things that, I don't think he should get. So, I mean, I'm kind of hoping he might get this. But I mean, if
I,
we can get a long drive out of him without having to reset him, I'm happier about that.
I
But
think it's a good idea. I think I understand what you're going for, and I also look for that. I don't have a specific cue for it other than drive, but eventually you're going to also need him to be able to go offside of the ball and push from an offside position, not directly in line with you. That's my experience in an expert level. So I just throwing that out there for you to think about as you're developing this. One of the things that I'm still working on with Riley is if I've asked her to drive and the ball takes a wonky turn and I need her to push out away from the ball so that she can then come in at it at the correct angle to push it that way, then I am giving her just her directional go by to try to hustle her up there. And then when she gets at the right position, here's the ball, here she comes. I say go by. My goal is that I can then say drive, and she knows at that point, drive that way, not necessarily directly away from me. Sometimes I want her to be driving over to get to that other pen. So just throwing it out there for you to think about. It's not always going to be a straight thing that you need when you're 50 feet away.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
I have
So,
left and right commands. So I do clock and counter
right,
depending on which way I want to push.
right.
And the dog just knows. I mean, drive is away from me, clock and counter are left and right.
So Tammy, if your dog is driving the ball away from you and
Mhm.
the ball's ahead of the dog and you need the dog to catch up to that ball but hit it from the left and direct it towards the right, is that when you say clock?
Yeah, I can. So if they're pushing the ball out and they're in the middle of the field and I need to get it to one of the side pins, I'll
Mm-hmm.
stop them and then I will give a clock or a counter and they'll
Okay.
move left or right. And they know that's the side. And I will also, like Sandy does, move to that side of the pin and put the pressure that way that I want.
Right.
So
So clock itself means not just the direction, but also push or drive in that direction.
in that direction,
You
correct.
don't have to say clock and then a drive command. Clock it means I want
Drive
you
it
to
across
put
the
the ball
field,
so that it
correct.
goes to the right.
Correct.
So and how
Pushes bring to me, drive is take it out straight out,
right.
and then clock and counter is move it left and right across
So
the field.
so how did you get that again? That was from the pen setup?
That's just something that what I originally was doing chasing Wyatt a few years ago. That's how I
No,
trained
but
him. So,
I know, but I mean, what was the setup to teach that original word?
for the clock and the counter,
Yeah.
I would start with the 2 pins and they were close like the initial photos. And I would just have them move it back and forth and I would use a clock and counter command as they do it. And
Mm-hmm.
once they do it, I start slowly separating out the pins further until I'm to
Right.
my 50 feet.
So even
And
in a small yard, you could start that.
I start in my garage during the winter. Yes.
Yeah.
Real easy to begin.
So just throwing it out there for you. It doesn't always necessarily have to be that straightness, because you can save time sometimes if you can get them to push one way or the other.
That's all super helpful, you guys. What about if you need to push it a diagonal? Then what do you do, Tammy, and you're with your left, right, straight away from me?
That's still a drive left or right. I get them out to where I need them and then I push it over to the side. So if
Okay,
they're
straight
going diagonal, I mean, once they get close, I'm like Sandy, I only have one command to put it in the pin. It's bank. So if they get near the pin and that I want them in, the command is bank, and that is to put it into the pin. And so mine all know that. And I've not taught any other commands for the boys, at least. I'm still working on expert with rumors, so we'll see where we end up. But that's how I'm teaching her as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I will keep saying drive, drive, drive as they're pushing out to it because they can't look backwards at me and see what I'm doing. So I tend to repeat myself as they're driving and encourage them to drive on till they get where I want. And then I say the bank command. And if they put it in the wrong one, then you clock or counter to the side to get it in the correct one.
So when you were teaching the drive straight out part, if it went sideways some way, either the ball rolled wrong, they tapped it at the wrong point on the ball and it started going the wrong direction, how did you reset that for a straight drive?
I started out with all my pins straight along the fence. And so I had a 40, 50 foot chute, and I had them drive all the way out that 40, 50 foot chute. And then I slowly widened it out. So they learned behavior wise that drive means straight out. Now, they're not always going to do that.
Right.
The yard is bouncy like yours. You've seen my yard.
Your yard looks beautiful on video. Let me tell you, I'm always jealous.
Tammy, can you clarify your measurements of your chute? How wide across was the chute? Not 40, 50. It was like it was a pen width of 8 plus another.
It was a ball width when I started, and it was every one of my actual pins I opened up so they were flat panels, and it was just a straight chute 50 feet long is how I started my drive. And once they learned to get all the way down the drive and all the way down, they would go down to the end and I would say yes, and I would call them back. Now I may send them around the other direction and have it push back to me, but I never did both in conjunction because mine tend to get confused if they push and bring it back, then they think that's the process. So they were always push and drive were two separate things when I taught them. And I never mixed them up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I use push as a reward sometimes for the drive, but I also can call off.
I don't like doing them both at the same time. Mine is drive, and when they get there, I give a big yes, and we cheer, and then we come back and we reset. And then we either bring it back as the next step, or I'll go get it and we'll drive again.
Right.
But once they learn that ball width, then I would double it so they have a little mistake area and have them drive down there. And they learned to get it pretty straight as they were driving.
So Tammy, you had a ball width channel that went 50 feet long, or 50 feet out is what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Or 40, or however far you want to practice. Right now I'm doing 50, and that's where Rumor was a couple weeks ago out there practicing. So learning to drive that distance.
Wow, good stuff, you guys. We have 2 minutes left. Anybody have any last burning thoughts or questions? This has been really great. It was so great to have so many experts on the call to talk through their challenges to triumphs.
Yeah, thank you everybody for contributing. I didn't know who was going to come and who would have things to say, and I think I've got some new ideas and things to think about for sure.
Yeah. Nice job, you guys. Good discussion.
Yeah, thanks for putting it on and sharing your experiences. Appreciate that.
Okay, well, I guess if that's it for everybody, we'll stop 30 seconds early.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate it. It was super interesting. I can't wait to listen to it again.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.